Welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast, a show for leaders by leaders that's focused on providing business and career advice, tools, and resources to help people achieve higher levels of success in their lives. I am your host, Coach Jason Ballard. Glad to be back with you today. Got another great show in store for you today. Today we're going to be talking about cadence, about a rhythm for which you as a leader can get yourself and the rest of your leadership team and your organization as a whole in a path and a pattern of success in this crazy, hectic world. This is a follow-on to a session we did last week that was based off of the book Lincoln on Leadership. Last week we did a book review and broke down very key elements of President Abraham Lincoln's presidency and his 4 major leadership strategies, which is really centered around managing and leading by walking around. And while President Lincoln was a president during a very turbulent time, a very challenging time, very critical time for our nation and our history, I would challenge you that today, even though we're not in a civil war, today our country faces immense amount of challenges. All of us as leaders and businesses and career aspiring professionals face an immense amount of challenges today in the respect of an economy that's struggling. We have inflation, we have a recession, we have instability in politics. We have a lot of different things going on in this country that's just creating a lot of fears and unknowns. We're still reeling from some of the impacts of COVID. We're still reeling from the Great Resignation and people leaving their jobs and going into business for themselves or changing careers, industries. There's just a lot of change, a lot of turmoil, and a lot of fear and unknowns right now. Just a lot of things kind of up in the air that has anxiety levels and stress levels higher than they've been in a long, long time. And so I'm often asked as a business and executive coach, how do you deal with all of these things? How do you stay motivated? How do you keep your organization going forward? How do you continue to motivate and influence your people and find innovative ways to be of value, to continuously do things in the world that makes a difference, makes people want to continue to work with you and buy your products and services, and especially in a time in which we are faced with an immense amount of challenges. So we're going to kind of break that down here today as a follow-up to our segment on Lincoln on Leadership. The answer is getting yourself in a rhythm and what I call a cadence. It's a word I took from the military when I served, and is how to get yourself in a rhythm for which will minimize, if not eliminate, being reactive. Kind of jumping to every time something happens in the world, you're jumping to that into more of a proactive way of doing things. And so we want to kind of break that down today and hopefully help you find the right cadence, the right rhythm for you as a leader or team of leaders, and to help your organization and the people in it succeed, work through these things that we're having to work through in today's workforce. So when you think about a rhythm and a cadence, a lot of people think, oh, that sounds rigid. That sounds structured. We're a small business, or we're a nonprofit, or we're special in some form or fashion. And I will submit to you, this principle applies to all organizations, large, small, and everything in between. Whether you're a church, whether you're a nonprofit, a for-profit, a governmental agency, these principles we're talking about today are universally successful in any size or type or industry for which you may be working. And so what are the benefits of putting in a cadence or a rhythm for which you can operate? Well, one, you can be more proactive doing it this way. You setting a schedule, you setting a rhythm for which you and your team can operate allows you to get in front of things versus always playing catch up to things. It allows you to be more proactive versus reactive. Second, it also allows you to define the most important things first. In this world that we live in with media, social media, instant gratification, and things that just happen and evolve, minute by minute, play by play, we can easily get caught up in the vortex of all that activity and get thrashed around in our daily lives. And then at the end of the day, we look up and say, wow, did I even do anything today? I was busy. I'm tired and worn out, but I don't feel like I got anything done. And it's about priorities. So number two, defining what's important and being able to focus on those things and be able to rally the team around that and execute on those things in a prioritized fashion. And when you're able to do those things, it starts giving you, on a personal level, you as a team and you as an organization, freedom. It's interesting, I find it, that we live in the greatest nation on the planet. We are supposed to be the freest of people, the most democratic of people in the world, but yet most Americans aren't free. We may have freedoms and liberty, and we have justice, and we have, a free country for which we can pretty much do what we want to do within the confines of the law. But a lot of people aren't executing their lives and businesses in a free way. This leads me to one person that I like and admire. You may know of him. He also has a podcast, a very successful podcast named Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, does similar things as to what I do with working with teams and businesses, but different. And on his podcast, I learned an interesting thing that he teaches. In fact, he even kind of brands this, that you can only achieve freedom through discipline. Through discipline is the mechanism for which you can achieve freedom. And you can only achieve freedom through having discipline. What does that mean? Let's kind of break that down. If you want to be financially free, have financial independence in your personal life, let's say, the only way you're going to be financially free is if you have a budget. You know exactly how much income you're bringing in. You know exactly how much your expenses are, and you live within that budget and are able to save, put money away in retirement or whatever you need to do to achieve the goals in your life. But if you don't have a budget and you don't stick to the budget, how will you ever achieve the financial goals that will allow you to achieve financial freedom? Think about your health. We've got the turn of the year coming up, and here in another month and a half, 2 months, we're going to turn into 2023. We're going to have a new year, new opportunities, right? That's exciting. And a lot of people at the turn of the year, and they're thinking about these things now, build New Year's resolutions. One of the things that most people do, the most common things people do, was create a New Year's resolution around their health. And they'll go get a gym membership and they'll go work out. And you know that 85% of all the people that start gym memberships in January, those gym memberships expire in March, and people actually never achieve their fitness goals. Why? Is because they're not disciplined to the process. People want to lose weight. They want to live healthier. They want to maybe build muscle or look a certain way, feel a certain way. but yet they don't exercise. They're not disciplined to creating a workout schedule. They're not disciplined to eating the right kinds of foods and getting enough sleep at night and making some sacrifices to achieve those goals. So without discipline in that respect as well, you can never achieve the freedom of feeling, looking, and being the way that you want to be from your overall health perspective. Well, the same thing applies in our career. The same thing applies in business. If you can't be disciplined to a process, disciplined to budgets, you can't be disciplined in your professional life, you will struggle to succeed. You will not achieve your maximum potential individually, collectively, and as an organization. So I challenge you all, as you're thinking about these things that we're talking about here, strive for freedom through discipline in what you need to do every day and sticking to the cadence, sticking to the schedule, sticking to the rhythm for which all of your people that work in your organization can march to the same beat, to the same drum every single day, week after week, month after month. I promise you, it will reap you results. So we'll break this down into two parts when we talk about cadence and rhythm. One is on a personal level. You can't lead other people successfully if you can't lead yourself. As leaders, you have to be an example of what you want other people to do and how you want them to behave and how you want them to think and communicate and operate as a team in an organization. So I'll say that again. As a leader, you can't successfully, effectively, efficiently lead others without leading yourself first. All right? You cannot give away what you don't have. So as a leader, if you're not healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually, if you aren't sticking to a schedule, if you aren't setting the example by how you show up in your attitude and your behavior and your positivity, and you have a plan and you're proactive and you're doing all the right things to be out in front of your team, leading them, motivating them, developing them, investing in them, helping them grow, helping them be successful. If you yourself are struggling to do that on an individual level, you'll never do it with a team. Therefore, you limit the organization's opportunities. And so what I would ask you to do as an individual leader is to create a block schedule. Look at different aspects of your life, your health. Are you making time to be healthy? Meaning go to the gym, walk around the neighborhood, get on an exercise bike, do something where you can exercise yourself at an adequate level. Nutrition and eating right. Rest. A lot of people think about their health. They don't think about rest and getting enough sleep at night and being able to do things to decompress during the day so their minds and their bodies can refresh and recharge so they can be their absolute best every single day. And so I challenge leaders to create a block schedule where you can program time individually to exercise, to eat right, to manage yourself spiritually, mentally, where you make time to develop yourself and read books and do things that allow you to stay sharp and decompress and manage your stress. Managing stress is really, really important. Also, on an individual level, are you making time to make the right investments with the right people? Are you spending time with the right people in the right ways? Like your family, your friends, your church family, your coworkers, your neighbors down the road, whatever that may be. Are you making time to do all those things? And so I would ask that you prioritize your life, discipline, and create a kind of a cadence and a schedule of things on a block schedule where you just program that time in to where it fills up the calendar with your personal priorities, for which nobody else can take that time from you. All of the other time that you have available during the day is allocated to the workplace, allocated to other things that are second, third, and fourth in priority. That will help you individually do the things you need to do in a balanced manner that helps you set the example for other people and give you the capacity to lead in bigger, better ways, because as a leader, much will be demanded of you and your time, the more people that fall underneath you in the organization. Okay, so number one is personal rhythm and cadence. Get yourself personally in a new rhythm and a new gear that's prioritized around you being the best you can be. Once that happens, you can then lead others to the best of your ability, which gets into part number two, organizational cadence and rhythm. One of the things that I would highly recommend, I've been using this for many, many years myself, and I know a lot of other leaders do as well, and that's creating an annual schedule, an annual calendar of things that you do on a weekly basis, things you need to do on a monthly basis, quarterly and annual basis. Have an annual calendar of those things. On a weekly basis, I usually recommend a 30-minute stand-up call on Monday mornings at 8:30 with your immediate leadership team to focus on the priorities of the week. Each and every week, you should have brand new priorities that are things that must get done that week before the week ends. I also maybe recommend on a weekly basis, you have a staff meeting and you look at all the different aspects of your business, HR, finance, projects, operations, etc., and get feedback from all of your leaders on all of these different things, so you always have your finger on the pulse. When you think of doing things on a monthly or quarterly basis, you're looking at your marketing, you're looking at your sales results and revenue, you're looking at your cash flow, you're looking at your projects and the different aspects of the projects and what phase they're in, whether they're on track, off track, and or if you need to intervene and figure out how to get them back on track if they're not. Another thing you can do on a monthly/quarterly basis is be looking at your metrics, your key performance indicators of all the different areas of your business for which you can evaluate performance and course correct throughout the year before things go too far too long and you end up having to do damage control on things that have gotten off track and off into the ditch. Things you can do on an annual level. Well, one, do a end of year review and understand how well you're doing or not doing, how well you're tracking on your strategic plan, how well are you tracking on your goals, what needs to happen to ensure that gets done before the end of the year. Another thing you do on an annual basis is hopefully do employee evaluations, hand out performance bonuses, awards, a recognition of your team and your team members and who's outstanding, who's gone over and above to really move the needle in your company. Those aren't all the things, but those are just some examples of things that you need to think about that are programmatically consistent year after year, week after week, month after month, that you can predict and you can schedule and you can put those things on the calendar and proactively be leading and managing way ahead of time. If you're a leader, I also recommend you make time maybe once a week or maybe once every couple of weeks and do things like we talked about in our last podcast episode of leading and managing by walking around, which is based on the Lincoln on Leadership book. Get out, program time on your schedule as a leader to get out of the office, get off of email, get off your phone, and just walk around and check on your people, talk to the people, ask them how they're doing, follow up on things going on in their lives, their personal lives, their professional lives. One question you should always be asking your people is, what are the top 2 frustrations you may be experiencing that if I were able to take those off your plate and help you resolve those, that would allow you to move the needle even better in the company today, make your job easier, right? If you consistently ask your people those types of questions, I assure you, you will be their favorite boss. You will get a lot more work done, and you will keep your finger on the pulse of things throughout the course of the weeks and months to drive excellence in your company. And so cadence is important, getting yourself and your people in a rhythm where everybody's on the same page, everybody's in the same system, everybody's marching to the same beat, individually and collectively, and being disciplined to that process, being disciplined to the schedule, being disciplined to executing in those ways will take you farther than you ever even thought possible. The synergy, the harmony that comes out of that closes a lot of gaps on communication and expectations and delivery of your goods and products to your important customers. A lot of things happen kind of automatically as a result of being disciplined to that process. And so as we kind of close up today, this is about clarity. Clarity about yourself, clarity about the people that work with you, clarity about the organization that you're in. Where are you? Where are you going? What kind of rhythm and cadence do we need to be in to run at the pace we need to run at together as a team? Because you can only go as fast, you can only deliver as well as the weakest person on the team, the slowest person on the team. And so it's your job as a leader, in my professional opinion, to make sure you're clear on all those things. Set up clear expectations with you, yourself, your team, your people, entities within the company, your partners. This allows for better communication. If everything we've talked about is on everybody's calendar and everybody on the team owns a piece of those things that's on the calendar, and they know when those things are coming, and they can prepare themselves and they can prepare their teams to do the work and report out on the work in a very disciplined, cadenced manner, you will get better results. You will have more engaged employees. The communication gaps will be eliminated. This also allows for transparency. One of the biggest things that I see as a business coach when I go into organizations is a lack of transparency between workers and management. This allows everybody to know what's going on, when and where, and who's responsible for what, and everybody's in the boat, rowing the boat in the same direction at the same pace, at the same frequency, at the same time. Lastly, it drives accountability. Everybody's accountable. The leaders are accountable for the vision and the guidance and the direction and the support and the resources. The mid-level managers are responsible and accountable for the communications and the execution and the daily operations. And then the frontline employees are responsible for executing and doing the daily work they're charged in doing in a very disciplined manner in accordance with the schedule for which the leadership has set forward that puts everybody in the same cadence, the same rhythm every day. And so I will leave you with a story, true story. There is a man named Alan Mulally. Alan Mulally was an executive at Boeing. He later went on to be the CEO of Ford Motor Company. Between 2006 and 2014, he served in that role. I had the privilege of meeting Alan Mulally. During his time when he was the CEO, he was at a conference here in Kentucky, and I got a chance to listen to him speak. He gave a great presentation. He's a really great speaker, storyteller, and had a chance to talk to him afterwards. Very, inspirational guy, motivational guy. Really, really liked him a lot when I talked with him in person. But here's what he found when he went into Ford. He went into Ford in 2006, which is right on the brink of us in economic decline, officially went into a recession in 2008. And Ford was the only company that did not take bailout money. So he took over during a very, very tough time. And I remember him recalling his first couple of meetings with his leadership team. He gets in a big conference room and all of his key leaders are there. And he introduces himself, has everybody else introduce themselves. They get to know each other. He lays out some kind of basic philosophy and expectations to everybody. And then he says, okay, I'd like to start digging in and learning what's going on in the company. I want to understand what the challenges are. I want to understand where the issues and the problems are that we need to solve, because that's our job as executives in the company, is to solve problems and provide whatever tools, knowledge, resources, etc., to the rest of the company for us to be able to solve these problems. And so they look at some PowerPoint slides, and on the slides, every aspect of the company that people were reporting out on were in the green. And the way they color coded things, green meant everything was going perfectly fine. Everything's on track. We're meeting all the goals and all the performance metrics and things. Yellow means things are getting off track. They haven't gone into the red where they're completely off track, but there's some issues going on that's getting them out of the green into the yellow and potentially into the red. And the red means something is completely gone wrong. There's major issues and things are not where they're supposed to be, set forth by the leadership and the expectations thereof. So he goes into meetings week after week after week, and everything's green. Well, during this time, he's traveling and visiting different plants and different manufacturing locations throughout Ford, and he's talking to plant managers. He's talking to the field level people and technicians and leadership, and he's getting briefed on all these things that are going on and where the challenges are, and he's asking really hard questions like a boss should, and how he can help and what top frustrations they're having and what needs to change and how do we make this better. And he's getting a lot of awesome feedback, and he's taking it back to the corporate office. In about the third or fourth week in a row, he sees everything's green. So he stops the meeting. He's like, folks, I'm seeing a major disconnect here. I've been out in the field. Things aren't all green. Things are red. Some things are yellow. Some things are green, but what you're showing me here is that everything is green. Something's wrong here. What are we missing? He said, so if everything's green, I'm going to assume we don't need to talk about it because everything's on track. Going forward, I want to see all reds and yellows. I want to know where the problems are. I want to maximize our time together as a team to tackle the toughest problems. Comes back a week later and things are still green. Nobody's really listening. And what he had found out was the previous administration prior to him coming in, it was not a good idea. In fact, you would get scolded in front of your fellow leaders if you showed reds and yellows. It was a bad thing to have reds and yellows and to be showcasing that to the leadership. And so people were conditioned to only show the green. So Alan Mulally says, look, I get it. This is not, a situation for where you show me red and you're getting in trouble, or there's an opportunity for you to get in trouble. This is an opportunity to dial in. He goes, we're one of the greatest companies in America, been around a long time, got a lot of opportunity for success in the future. There's no problem we as a team cannot solve together. We need to start looking at problems and solving problems because we're wasting time just looking at green things all the time when there's a lot of problems to be solving. So let's kind of cut through the greens here and get to the reds and start working on problems together and maximizing our time. Well, then people started coming back. They changed the culture. Some people on the leadership team ended up leaving. Some were asked to leave, some left on their own. And over the course of time, they really started drilling in and developing a whole new culture around excellence, about problem solving and communicating. And he created a whole discipline there. He created a whole new strategy and cadence and culture around these concepts of honing in on the problems, working well as a team to execute those problems as a team. An operational problem is rarely just one guy in operations problem. There's usually people involved. Well, that involves HR. There's usually money involved, which involves finance, right? Everybody is on the team, and he created a whole new cadence and rhythm for which the leadership team would all communicate and get together in a cadence and be disciplined to the process for which how they solved problems, which trickled down to mid-level and front lines over a period of time. And Ford went on with that type of strategy, mindset, culture, and cadence, the discipline and the rhythm of doing this week after week and getting better and better. Everybody was in that cadence. And it led to some of the most successful years in Ford's history. Here's a guy, Alan Mulally, who was an engineer. He designed things on airplanes that Boeing Corporation built for the military and for the commercial airline industry. Had no automotive industry experience whatsoever. Becomes one of the first CEOs in the automotive industry that didn't have automotive industry experience and had one of the most successful runs in the history of Ford Motor Company, which is a legendary company built off of Henry Ford. So I leave you with this. Do you have the right cadence? Is your team in the right rhythm for success? Are you personally got your stuff together? Do you personally have your leadership sound, where you have the capacity and the ability to lead others and get them in cadence with you, to which they can get the rest of the organization in cadence? Cadence is crucial. You cannot grow and scale a company. You can't overcome major challenges if you don't get everybody in a cadence. And it all starts with you on a personal level, and that expands out to the organizational level. So I hope today was very informative, very valuable. I deal with these things every day. There are a lot of organizations, a lot of people out there in the world, I'd say probably 75 to 80% of the organizations out there are not in a good rhythm or cadence. They don't even have that established for everybody to be disciplined to, nor do they have the higher levels of accountability from top to bottom and bottom to the top to execute that in a disciplined fashion. Again, you can only achieve freedom to grow the company, freedom to scale the company, freedom to take the company to its highest level it can possibly achieve and maximize the potential of the employees in the process only if there's discipline. If you would like to learn more about how to do this effectively, feel free to reach out. The whole purpose of this podcast is to provide tools, knowledge, and resources to people out there that may be struggling, may be staying up at night, may be worrying and stressing about these things and just can't seem to get their arms wrapped around it. You can, and you will do it. You just need to connect with the right things and follow these proven strategies that I'm talking about, and your life will become a lot easier. Your organization will certainly be able to go to the next level of success. Feel free to reach out to soarhighercoaching.com. There you can connect with me and folks that can help you, give you some free advice, give you some tips, help you explore some options based off of where you are today. You can also reach out via the podcast in the show notes. There's an email in there. You can email in questions or concerns, many ways to do this. I just want you to get the knowledge. I want you to test this out, try this out, start this, get it going, and reach out if you stumble a little bit. We're glad to help you. It's all about you being successful. If you're successful and others are successful and your friends and neighbors become successful, everything starts everything in the world starts becoming more successful. And that's what we want to see, a better, brighter world that we can all live in. So that's it for today. Look forward to our next session where we're going to have a Q&A session. We've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of suggestions in through the show, and we're going to kind of break down these questions, break down these things, and figure out how to answer those questions and get information out there that can help you with some clarity and understanding things that's important to you, and look forward to doing that. Until then, hope you have a great week. God bless. We'll see you next time.